Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the SportsPro podcast. I, as you might be able to tell by my voice, am your host, Tom Bassam, and this week I am lucky enough to be in Madrid. Why, you might ask? Well, it is the latest edition of SportsPro Madrid, one of our premier events over here at SportsPro, where a large contingent of us sports proers decamp for a few days of really insightful content, great conversation, real learnings. It's a fantastic event and I am, as always, privileged to be here. Next week, you'll be able to hear myself and Steve McCaskill bringing you a little bit more of a flavour of some of the trends that have come out of the event on our traditional On The Floor podcast. But this week, I am lucky enough to bring you a conversation with one of our speakers. I'm referring to Guy-Laurent Epstein, who is Uefa's marketing director. And in our wide-ranging conversation, we covered a whole host of subjects, including, but not exclusive to, this summer's Euros, the revamped Champions League format, the Europa Conference League, and of course, what's going on with the women's game ahead of Euro 2025. Now, without much further ado, I think it's probably best to just hand over to that interview. So here's myself talking to Guy-Laurent Epstein. Enjoy. Guy-Laurent Epstein, welcome to the SportsPro podcast. Thank you for joining us in Madrid in our very bright studio. Hope I'm not blinding you. I guess it's been a pretty busy year for you guys at UEFA, right?
Yeah, it's quite busy with a successful Euro, launch of the new format of the club competition. So it keeps us busy, but it's fun.
So yeah, you said the Euro 2024 was successful. I'd like to start there if possible. What went into making that a success?
I would say that the starting point is probably that there was a great expectation for fans and people to have a party. We should not forget that it's probably the first event post-pandemic in Europe that allows people to gather together in a festive environment. The previous Euro was during the pandemic. The previous Olympics were during the pandemic. The World Cup was in Qatar. So that's the first time that people could really have a party time around a sports event. And Euro was capitalized on this willingness from people to have fun and to attend such an event. And it translated in full stadium, it translated in full fan zones, it translated into a great atmosphere in stadium with people singing all the time, having a great time and enjoying the party was very good. So that's probably the foundation of it. Then Germany is a great place to host a tournament like this because they founded the fan zone with the World Cup 2006, so they know how to have this. They have this culture of the beer garden where people spend time having fun together. So they know how to welcome people. They have great infrastructure. It's easy to go around the country. So this added another layer to the success. And then you have the football, and the football was of good quality. 24 teams, lots of exciting results. So the combination of all this generated a fantastic audience, break and record audience on television and on digital. And it was just probably no major issues happened. So altogether, it was very, very good.
I guess a part of that, as you said, it's sort of like the first normal Euros, quote unquote, since 2016. Having been through that experience of having that pandemic Euros where everything was spread out, you obviously have operating in smaller stadiums and you had other challenges. Was it sort of like relearning a little bit how to do those events, or was it a chance to reset almost like your approach?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, we could not really test the multi-country host of the Euro because it was during the pandemic. So we don't know what it would have been outside of a pandemic. It was difficult to organize during a pandemic, I tell you. But I mean, at the end of the day, being able to go to a big market like Germany that is really football savvy, that is really football is part of the culture, is extremely important in the country. I mean, you can't miss. you can only win.
Obviously, the Euros is a European tournament, but it has a
Well done.
yes. That's why I said obviously at the start of that sentence. Thank you. The European tournament, but it's very like it gets much more global engagement, I think, than any of the other regional than any of the regional tournaments. What's that? Like, how do you guys tell that story or try and build up that audience outside of Europe?
So to obviously, Euro is going beyond the boundaries of Europe because football is the number one sport in the world. So lots of stars are playing Euro, and those stars are appealing across the world. So it makes the tournament global, truly global, and we have probably great. I mean, we had the combination of many things. We have a great platform from a television standpoint globally, outside of Europe, with Fox doing a great job in the US. We have been covering the Middle East and North Africa, Super Sport in Africa, and several broadcasters in Asia helping us to deliver the tournament in the region. And then it helps a lot to give the promotion of the tournament in the local countries. We support it, of course, with a lot of digital content that for some of the region is localized. I mean, China is a very good example where we have a team based in China that is delivering localized digital content on the local digital platform, because obviously it's different than the rest of the world for most of it. So we have a local team helping us there to be very local. And talking China again, we had 5 sponsors during Euro that were Chinese brands. And of course, so there was a very strong focus on China, because those brands, they come to Euro not only to grow their image in China, because the idea is to grow their image in Europe. I mean, a good example is BYD, the cars that was probably not present at all in Europe, and that is gaining a lot of knowledge, or their name is known, or brand knowledge in Europe, like iSense did 8 years ago. iSense was not known. They joined Euro 16, and now it's really a major brand in Europe. So they are going towards image recognition in Europe and in the world, but the Chinese market remains very important for them, whereby associating themselves with a competition like Euro, it also reflects very positively in China on their image, because people see that actually it's an international brand.
Yeah, it must have been a bit of a wrench for you guys, because you probably had interest, I'm guessing, from the likes of like Volkswagen, for example, holding a tournament in Germany.
Yeah.
I'm
It
sure.
was an interesting one, I must say, not to have a German car brand present for Euro in Germany. But I must say, BYD took the opportunity very strongly, and I think they did a very great job in building their image outside of China.
I miss the little cars though. Can we have those back next time?
Maybe one day. Was fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. And one of the other sponsors that actually, I mean, well, here's also interesting to talk about the Laureate Sport for Good Index, of which you're a judge. Lidl, we felt like they were a new addition, I think, for this tournament in terms of coming into that. Yeah, how important is it to you to work with, like at UEFA, to work with brands that you see working in that positive social impact space?
I think, look, it is very important to everybody. I mean, we all have our own projects in sustainability, and we have lots of partners supporting us into delivering this project, because they are amplifying, just naturally amplifying, because they have a large distribution opportunity. When it comes to a company like Lidl, obviously, because of their footprint, I mean, that was a very special case, because their footprint in Germany of retail stores is amazing. So on one hand, it was a great partner to us, because they bring Euro to the people locally in their shop they go every day. So from a commercial standpoint and image standpoint, it was absolutely fantastic. And on the other hand, having a partner that is sensitive to sustainability, to the evolution of the world, is important, because we are defending those causes as well. So it's a very strong fit.
We couldn't be at SportsPro Madrid without me asking some media questions. So interestingly, in Germany, you had I think it was a a different kind of mix in terms of pay TV and free to air for this tournament. In terms of you had, I think it was Deutsche Telekom, which picked up the rights of the whole tournament, and then parts were sub-licensed out to the free to air broadcasters. I think it was a similar mix in France, although I can't remember exactly who the broadcasters were. Is that like that's a real evolution for UEFA's tournaments in terms of moving away a little for the international tournaments in terms of moving away from being exclusively free to air? Why is it right? Like why is that evolution happening? Do you think?
Well, I don't think it's new actually. We have implemented it since in France. I think it goes back to 2012. Where there is a mix. In Italy, it's quite present for, if it's not 12, it's 16, but it's been there for a few tournaments already. And in Germany, it has happened for this tournament as well. I think the idea is we move from a tournament that was until 2012 with 31 games to a tournament that is now with 51 games. And it could be very, or even too much inventory for one broadcaster to be able to cover in a proper manner. So the idea, of course, we want to stay free to air with Euro. It's extremely important that it reaches the mass because it's an event of national importance for all the participating countries. You need to see your national team and a tournament like this on free to air. So we found a combination whereby we ensure that there is at least one match per match day on free to air, including all the matches from the domestic national team, including all the final, semi-final, opening match, etc. And the rest could be covered in parallel to the free-to-air in pay TV, and there would be exclusive games. The complement would be on pay TV. So it is something that has been implemented for a few years now. It was the first time, I guess, in Germany, but we did it before in Italy and France. So it's a natural balance. And I guess where I see the benefit of the pay TV channel is that it's probably most of the time sport dedicated channel, and they have air time. How do you call that? Airtime to dedicate to the tournament. So the full day on those channels, because there's no much more other sports happening during that window, is dedicated to Euro. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that you'll look to implement in the UK going forward?
So the UK is a very specific place because there is a listed event regulation which ensures or oblige, which way you want to see it, the full tournaments, international tournaments like Euro or World Cup, to be on free-to-air. So all matches has to be on free-to-air, and of course the destinations are limited because it's BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, if we stretch it. So we have a limited place to go to, but it has to be fully on free-to-air. So the UK cannot really be under that model today.
One more question on the Euros, and that was the addition of Betano as the first betting sponsor. I mean, there's a lot of discourse around betting sponsorship in football generally, especially in the UK, and there's been a lot more kind of regulation put in place in Spain and Italy in terms of what you can and can't do with betting brands around there. Why did UEFA want to take on a betting brand now?
So we took betting brands before because we took on Club Competition. Bwin was a partner for a few years already on Europa League in the past.
Was that like a test for this?
No, not really. I think the idea was more that to consider that we were reluctant in the past, but actually betting is fully part of football. Because there's lots of betting opportunity there. There is a concern with match fixing, but actually the view was that match fixing is not happening on the official platforms, on the licensed platform, on the one that are established. And we believe that we are in a better place to have a business relationship with those betting operators and have a proper exchange on patterns, on activities, on players' habits, gamblers' habits, or etc., than ignoring them. So we got more closer to the betting world, but also to have this integration of the connection, having the ability to have an open dialogue with the betting operator rather than ignoring them. So that's how it's been created. And Betano is a very serious brand, taking the responsible gambling very seriously, as much as Bet365 or the brands that we deal with, and therefore we are very happy to have dealt with them, I must say.
Let's move on from the Euros, because there's plenty of other things to talk about with UEFA. And you mentioned it already. You got the new formats for the club competitions this year. What's did that change the conversations with the brands and the partners and even the broadcasters that you were working with? What was the shift that you guys went through at UEFA there?
I don't know if that changed the conversation, because the conversation, I mean, look, it's not the time to say that the previous format was crap. It was a great format. Champions League is a great competition since 30 years. We always look in our history of club competition or national team competition, with the creation of Nations League back a few years ago. We always look to enhance the competition formats and the competition overall. In this case, we've been working quite a long time to deliver this format. Lots of exchanges with broadcasters and partners to make sure that it delivers a better product, because the previous product was already very good. And we believe, and the first feedback that we have from fans and from broadcasters, and actually from players as well, is that we delivered on the promise. I heard that from broadcasters, and they usually are not that open to us, but they say, well, you sold us a promise, you deliver, and it's fantastic. So the full benefit, I guess, for the partners, being broadcast or sponsor, is that the competition is getting more exciting from day one, with delivering strong matches, strong opposition from the top, between the top clubs from day one, across all the league phase, which was not necessarily happening in the previous format. So it's a very strong enhancement. The second one is probably that every single match counts, because you're not only dependent on your result, you're dependent on the result of the other matches to see how the ranking is shaped. So you cannot let go a game or be looking for a draw. You have to win all your matches to make sure that you will be in the top teams going through. So it has enhanced the geography of the games, and you can see the results. Now it's becoming real. We are at match day 4, match day 5 next week, and you see now the ranking, and it's very interesting. People are looking at, okay, I'm in the top 8, or I'm in the 9 to 24. So what do I have to do to make sure I qualify? So the conversation is growing there quite significantly, and I think we've delivered something extremely strong. Then we added 2 matches only, which would be in January. That is very positive for the continuity of the competition, because there was a break between mid December and mid February in the past, which is quite long in storytelling. So the matches in January are delivering the continuation of the storytelling, and it's also a contribution to our pay broadcasters, because they can continue to sell subscription for the Christmas period, which is very important for them as well.
The relationship with the pay broadcasters is interesting, and I'd like to kind of go into that. First, I wanted to ask about the storytelling side of it, because from a digital perspective, you've got to speak to fans and explain to them how this thing works, right? How did you go about setting up your content plan?
So I think we did several things. I guess now it's understood. I would believe that now fans have understood the concept.
We'll see by match day 7, I think.
Yeah, maybe. But in any case, I mean, the feedback from the fans that I get, because I'm a football fan, so I speak to a lot of friends that are also football fan, is that they already see the benefits, even if they don't see the full picture yet, maybe, but they see the benefit of having great matches, having great matches from day one. They see the benefit of seeing that everybody plays for winning, and it is true, it is real, it is there. Now, in terms of the communication, we did many different things. We had, of course, a very strong campaign on digital to push direct to the fans the change of the competition. We had briefings with journalists all across Europe to make sure that the journalists that are probably the first influencer for the fans can understand what it is and explain it on their platform. So we had a roadshow across Europe to do that. And then we also had a few promos. I mean, there is a very great video that has been done with our president and Zlatan. I don't know if you've seen it. That is really is taking a second degree approach that rights holders are not used to take, and giving us probably a different taste towards the fans. So we had a really 360 communication campaign touching the different stakeholders.
Onto the sort of the media side of it and the way that the mix is working. So I'm going to take the UK as an example.
Always take the UK as an example. Can you take Spain as an example?
I could do Spain, but like the UK's like the mix is new. So we've got Amazon doing doing Tuesday PK matches, and obviously then TNT, BT. What was BT doing the rest? Was this only possible because of the new format?
No, we have it for years in many markets, and for example, it has changed in France, where Canal Plus took over the full exclusivity, where before it was shared. So it's the formula with one first pick and the rest on a different platform has happened for many years. Historically, actually, that one first pick was dedicated to a free-to-air broadcaster back 10 years or 20 years ago. It has evolved into a combination of a couple of broadcasters. And you can tell that Amazon is not really a pay platform because it's a basic tier somehow, because you subscribe to Prime. I mean, I was subscribed to Prime. I didn't know, to be honest, because of the shopping side. And I realized that actually I subscribe to Prime and there is great content on Prime.
Yeah.
So I would compare it more to a basic tier rather than a pay platform. So it's something that we've done in many, many markets historically.
I think because before you had Amazon was doing games in Italy, I believe.
We have in Italy and Germany, and they continue to do it. It's a successful model for them. So we started in Germany, then Italy. Now they extend to England. So it's something that we are used to do, I must say.
With the addition of extra games, it made it maybe easier for TNT or BT to give up, to be like, okay, yeah, maybe we can give up one game, because they've still got loads of extras on the a ton of extras on their side to show.
Ask them. But I mean, look, because we run tender processes, so that's the way it articulates, and the platforms on the said market are positioning themselves to acquire a set of rights. So we ended up with this formula. I believe you're probably right. But it's own decision, own strategic decision of BT.
So we've done sort of new formats, we've done media, we've done sponsorship to that. I wanted to ask about the Conference League. I love the Conference League. It's got a great trophy.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, obviously that's now a few years old. Can we kind of rewind it almost to before that? Because I don't think we've talked about this before too much on the podcast. What was what was the process for launching that competition? Like taking it through sort of the whole thing of like, we've got this. I know previously there used to be third tier UEFA competitions that hasn't been around for a while with the what was it, the Cup Winners' Cup? Taking a whole new competition to market and selling it, and now seeing it where it is. Can you just talk me through that whole run through?
I'll try to.
Okay.
So before we had two competitions, the Champions League and the Europa League. The Champions League with 32 teams, Europa League with 48. There was two elements that triggered the reflection about a new competition. First was to allow new clubs to have the feeling of European competitions and extend the footprint of teams participating in the group stage of the competition to a wider number of countries. Second is probably to solve an issue that we faced with the Europa League, whereby the Europa League with 48 clubs, it was a mix of clubs that were challengers and ambitious to reach the Champions League, and other clubs that were just doing their first path in Europe. And it was a very wide mix of clubs. By creating the Conference League, we believe we have addressed, and I guess it shows it, we have addressed two issues that we identified, or two two objectives that we wanted to achieve. First one was to give the opportunity to additional clubs to experience a European journey. Second one is to clarify the role of each competition in the ecosystem of European club competition. Champions League is the premier competition, super high level, fantastic football, and for the high quality stuff. Europa League is the challenger tier. The teams in Europa League are all aiming at qualifying for Champions League and are fighting hard for that. And you have the Conference League that is for the teams that are from either the second tier from a big market or the first team from a smaller market that have the ability to experience Europe or the group stage and now the league phase of European competition for the first time. And that's the positioning of this free competition that was more difficult to do before. So we achieved these two things: more clubs and more clarity into the positioning of each competition.
Then the sort of launch of that, the branding, all of that kind of stuff, like what was the approach there? How did you think about like the Conference League, for example? Where was that name born from? Was that?
Well, I mean, of course, I said two things. So on the naming side, I mean, naming is very subjective. So we run a long process of naming, identifying many different names. We came out with actually at the beginning, it was the Europa Conference League that is now been reduced to Conference League. The rationale for being Europa Conference League at the time was that Europa League and Conference League are played on the first day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Thursday night football for two type of teams or two competition. So we wanted to keep them into the same family, hence calling them Europa League and Europa Conference League to start with. And that we've evolved from there. So that's conference could have been something else. It's the best we could find. It works, we believe, and we go ahead with this. When it comes to the branding, you will identify that the branding between Europa League and Conference League is similar. And again, it's because we're talking about Thursday night football. Both broadcasters can pick, subject to the performance of their team, could pick Conference League or Europa League. And it's really the story of two very close competition that are playing on a Thursday night, and that's where we wanted to make them feel as a family of brands.
Yeah, you said like they certainly do have a sort of very similar visual. Obviously, orange and green, the colors.
The color codes are different.
And currently, like the marketing and media rights sales are generally they're bundled for those two competitions, right? Yeah. Do you see a time when that changes?
Look, at the moment, I guess the way we approach the market is selling Thursday night football. It's quite difficult to split them because the guarantees of what will be broadcast is difficult to say, because it really depends on the participating team and what is relevant for the fans. Because ultimately, we want to offer the broadcaster the ability to deliver to the fans what they want to watch. And sometimes it will be a Conference League game, and sometimes it will be a Europa League game. So depending on who's playing at what time. So at this stage, we felt that it's still very important to keep them together so that it's for the benefit of the fans that they will have the ability to see the match they want to see. If we split it, we will create a competition between two competitions on the same market, which probably maybe having two different broadcasters might be more complex. Maybe one day we'll look into it, but at this stage, we believe it's the best formula to deliver it.
And I mean, streaming is now such a sort of well-established thing across Europe, right? And that gives any broadcaster the option of being able to put all of the games out on one platform and let fans choose. Does that make it easier in that process of telling that story and putting those games out? Because the fans can be, it almost democratizes game selection to an extent.
Yeah, of course. I think for me, it's purely a technology matter. At the end of the day, streaming platforms are nothing else than the pay TV platform. The biggest difference is linear versus non-linear historically, but that's one thing. And of course, technology allows them to open a channel just for one game, and it's easy to find. So yes, it helps us to deliver more games, so everyone can pick the game they want to watch. Where linear channels, it was more difficult in the past to do it, but so the technology helps. But ultimately, we were doing that for many years. That broadcasters or pay broadcasters that were in the more traditional media distribution were also picking a lot of games anyway.
With the addition of the Europa Conference, with the Conference League, sorry, there is you've also got more inventory, I guess, to offer out to brands, and there's been a real drive in recent years, noticeably, I think, in terms of bringing in partners specific to those competitions. Was that also part of? I'm guessing that was also part of the motivation for setting up those competitions, just the ability to expand the club competition inventory.
No.
No.
No, I don't think. I mean, honestly, the rationale to implement, to deliver, to develop the new competition was a pure sporting matter and not a commercial matter. So I guess the clarity that we bring to the club competition positioning helps the commercial matters. But we did it only based on sporting matters.
Okay, then to flip it around a little bit, does it help with bringing extra brands into the UEFA sphere? Because you're able to bring them in at a lower price point, I'm guessing, than you would for, say, the Champions League.
Of course, but the Europa League was already the case before. So I don't think I would think that what helps in bringing the Conference League is that, as I mentioned earlier, we are having a larger footprint of participating teams, participating countries, and for partners that want to target probably sometimes more Central Eastern Europe markets, this offers this opportunity to get there. So I think that's where it creates value. But again, the creation of the competition was really based on sporting matters.
Okay, and I'd like to talk about women's football, and it's it's blowing up like massively at the moment. We're seeing it in the UK with the Women's Super League and the changes that are being made there. The rights have skyrocketed. I think they've tripled in value. You've had the relationship with DAZN around the Women's Champions League for a few.
Yeah.
You still do, yeah. For a few years now. How are you, what's UEFA's internal view of how the Women's Champions League is evolving? Is it ticking up in the right direction? And I believe there's also plans for a second-tier women's competition at some point in the future.
So look, I mean, the Women's Champions League had a tremendous, since we centralized the rights, actually, because it was existing for many years, but historically, commercially, I'm talking commercially, we were only managing the final. So it didn't give an appointment to view, a place where you know where to watch it, and it didn't give enough inventory to sponsors to go into women's football. So now the revamped competition is achieving two things. First, we can give a platform, dedicated platform, place where you can watch the competition for the entire competition, centralized competition, so from the group stage onwards, and now from the league phase onwards. And it gives the ability for partners to associate themselves with a full season long women's property. And of course, there are a lot of interest into the women's game from brands that want to associate with the genuine part of women's football that is growing a lot. So it has been quite successful. We learned a lot from what we've done in the men's before in managing the brand, because we went probably faster than we would have done otherwise. But it's a different product, and we try to treat it differently than the men's football. It has its own attributes that are very important from both brand perspective or partners perspective and the broadcast perspective.
With that as well, like you've had with DAZN, the broadcast side of that, they originally laid out there was a roadmap for we're going to do a couple of seasons of all the games being on YouTube, and then we're going to put some on our platform, and they're going to go behind the paywall, and then they sort of reverted on that. Is that about when that happens? That's clearly to do with audience numbers and them not hitting the things that they want, right? What's that dialogue like with you at the UEFA end on how they're going to almost redraw their roadmap for the Champions League broadcast?
I mean, look, it's an evolution. I mean, we started from scratch. We tried to apply a different approach to the women's game than to the men's game by taking one global partner that would invest and dedicated a lot of resources to the women game. And actually, DAZN acquired a lot of other women properties because they really believe into it. And the balance was effectively that we were able, or we wanted to be able to have a free-to-air exposure on a global platform like YouTube to push the game even more because it deserves to be pushed, and with the DAZN platform in parallel. So effectively, it was meant to be a process starting from everything on YouTube and progressively reduce this. I guess that dialogue was very fruitful by saying, look, it is important that we keep a stronger free-to-air platform. I guess for them, it was similar that they needed more promotion for the game to attract more subscribers going forward. So we found a balance together, and the conversation has always been very positive with DAZN on this.
And are you still seeing like encouraging figures when it comes to the engagement with those matches, or wherever they are on the design or
Yeah, I mean,
non-usual platforms?
altogether, look, it's a growing sport. I mean, we're starting from scratch, so the numbers are good. Can they be better? Probably, and we're working very hard to make them stronger and better. But we're also working very closely with DAZN and with YouTube to make sure that we're pushing those numbers as far as we want. Women's Euro is coming this summer, and we are working very hard as well to have the best platform possible to have great numbers behind it. So yes, we are pushing, and the numbers. I mean, women's football is part of football today. I don't know if it's women's football still. It's football.
On that second tier competition, is there still a plan for that? Is that
Yeah,
been
probably. I think there is a discussion to have a second tier competition, not from a commercial standpoint, but again to give the opportunity to more clubs to experience European football.
And can you talk me through? So it was recently announced you used a big partnership with Two Circles, the agency, and the announcement of this new structure for the sponsorship tiers. Can you just explain to the listeners what that is and how that's going to work?
So we have a relationship with Two Circles since 2017 on the sponsorship side, so nothing really new. We work very well with them. So we felt that there was still a need for the partners and for the product or the compatible women's football. There was still a need to have partners that would be supporters of the women's football movement rather than being associated to competition. So we have a tier that is encompassing all the women's football competition that we have. Women's Champions League, Women's Euro, etc., etc. And the women's football package, our partners enjoy presence and association with all of the women's football. And we felt, and we still feel, and we are convinced that there is a need to push the women's football forward. These partners would help us a lot to achieve that. Companies like Pepsi are doing a lot into the women's football in general, and we want to be competition agnostic. We don't want to limit them to Women's Champions League or to Women's Euro. It's a global movement that they are supporting. And then in addition to that, you have brands that want to be associated with different competition because they have different aims. Some wants the regularity that the Women's Champions League is delivering. Some wants to be associated with a big bang like Women's Euro. So we give the ability as well to those brands to join because it's a benefit not only from a commercial standpoint, but it's also a benefit for the promotion of the game.
Would the roadmap be ultimately to move away from that women's football movement sponsor and then break it down eventually?
Possibly. I mean, we are implementing this approach until 2030. Then we'll look at before we look at what it had delivered and consider what we do next.
It's such a fast-moving space, the women's game. And what have you learned in the short time that you guys have been centralizing the commercial rights around the Women's Champions League, and also almost with the I'll take the women's the Lionesses' victory as a sort of big bang moment for the UK market. But what have you guys learned in the last few years about selling into that?
Look, I think it's a very different discussion. It's a different discussion to men. I think when you talk about men club competition or Euro, you talk about the media value a lot. because that's part of a historical way of measurement. It's an investment that is meant to deliver an ROI from a business point of view for the brand. Fair, and we are, I think, very well positioned there. We work very well with the brands there. When it comes to women's football, the media value is not the main trigger. I think it's the association with uh, a new, fast developing sport that is in very genuine, and there is a. It's very important to brands as well to be able to associate themselves with women's football for their own internal communication. I mean, it's companies want to show that they do something for supporting women's rights, women's sport, and so they invest in the sport not only for the media value but also for the transfer of image that it gives. So it's a very different discussion that we have compared to the men's game.
Surely the ultimate goal then is for that to change, for then it to be more of a conversation about media value at some point, and it's not just like the sellers, you're doing this because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, of course. I mean, look, it's obvious that it is the case, but you will never lose the good thing to do. I don't think you would, but of course, it will be the media value and the traditional assets of a partnership will become even more relevant going forward.
Looking ahead then to the Women's Euro 2025, how are like the commercial conversations for that going? Yeah, let's start there.
I mean, look, we almost done there because it's in 6 month time or 7 month time. So it's been very successful so far. The media platform is very strong. Lots of partner and free to air partners in the participating countries have joined the program and will broadcast the game. It's a national team competition. It's very different. You have the full support. It's a family driven competition or experience. So it will be the distribution and the promotion around that game will be huge. When it comes to brand, we have a full lineup of sponsors and first tier blue chip companies have joined, and it's very exciting to see that excitement around it. And then we have a tier of local sponsors in Switzerland that also want to be part of the party. But honestly, we very very happy with where we get.
We talked earlier about that pay TV free to air mix. Women's football, do you think, is not right yet for like having a real pay TV push in the big market? Is it still all about reach?
Yeah, I mean, look, we will have some pay TV platform covering the tournament as well, but obviously, I think we're very excited to bring it to the masses via the free to air platform. I think it's the fact that there is an interest from free to air is very important to us, and it's very strong interest. Actually, it's not just well, we will show it now. They're engaged, they're investing money, and they're investing resources to make the best coverage possible of the competition. So we're very happy with the free to air platform, and there is a complementary coverage that will be there with the pay TV platform as well. So it's going there as well.
Because the reason I asked that is there was some interest, like FIFA had some struggles around the World Cup in terms of having to wait last minute to secure deals. Why is it that you think? I mean, do you think you're ahead of where they are?
No, it's just that it was probably. I mean, I don't know the details, to be honest, and I don't want to comment. However, I guess the time zone didn't help. Obviously, having a competition in Australia doesn't help the European broadcast platform.
What's the sort of what's UEFA's next big thing that it's looking to kind of bring to market? I guess what's the next big innovation for UEFA?
We have nothing in the pipeline that I know of, but no. But we just look. We have revamped the Nations League recently, and we have quarterfinals coming in with playoffs in March. So it's a new evolution of the format of that competition, and we are very behind it. We implement the Nations League format also in the women's game that has been very successful. Why it's successful? Because probably sportingly, having a Nations League format in the women's game has avoided to have big scores that were happening in the past. So it gives the ability to be more exciting in terms of the results, and it delivers what it was meant to deliver. We just revamped the club competitions format. So at the moment, we are looking to implement, stabilize those formats that are, in our view, very efficient and very positive from both sporting side and commercial side. So we are continuing this and implementing this, and improving them if needs be.
Mm.
But from a competition side of things, we are not planning to do major innovation now.
Anything on the digital innovation side that you guys are really excited
We're
about?
always looking into enhancing the experience of the fans. So we're looking at how we can manage our apps in a better way, how the gaming platform will be enhanced with the fantasy games. What can we do with our OTT platform? So we're looking at all sorts of things to integrate more together, because we have, of course, a lot of competition and a lot of different platforms. How can we bring them together to make it work in a easy environment? Because it's not easy. It's a complex environment that we have. Can we bring them together, make the fan experience better than it is today? That's the ultimate goal, I guess.
Is there any goal of like replicating a FIFA Plus or an NBA app or something like that, where you pull in all of those kind of different threads with gaming and match streaming, highlights, content, that
So
kind of thing?
we're going there slowly. I mean, the Euro app was all about this. I mean, with having the gaming, the video integration, the vertical videos into it, some games, the Interlingo game about language, the ticket holders services with interactive maps, the ability to find a bar, the ability to have your ticket for the public transportation. I mean, it was a fully integrated app for the Euro itself. Now, how can we enhance that to make it for all competitions? It's a difficult. I mean, it's a difficult one. We have to think about it, how to optimize it. We have different commercial programs for the different competitions. How do you bring that together? So it's something we're looking at.
Complex program for
Complex, but it's exciting. Otherwise, it would be boring.
Of course. All right. I think I'm pretty much there with my questions. I'm aware that you've got meetings and stuff coming up because it's a busy conference. Guy, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.